Hi, I'm in a busy house today. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Um, so if you notice there's a lot of commotion going on, it's because the 3-year-old is refusing to go to bed in a really nice way, um, and the nanny's trying to get him to bed, and his sisters, I don't know what she's doing, but she's also making lots of noise. Um, so just very briefly, just going to speak about my experience with goalkeepers and the sort of goalkeepers that or the sort of goalkeeper that I would look for in to start in my team. Um, Now, firstly, I think you always try to strengthen your team from the back. So having a competent goalkeeper is essential. Um, Looking to strengthen from the back, it's got to start with the person in the goal. Um, I would look for them depending on the age group as well. I would say, oh, it depends on the age group and it depends on what the club want, but I think it really does just depend on the age group and the experience of those players within the game, because you could have a group of U10s who are very experienced. They've been playing together for 3, 4 years, or you could have a group of U10s who've never played together, and maybe it's their first full season. So I think you're looking for players that can show recall um, within a reasonable period of time, so they don't keep on making mistakes or seeing things go wrong and not know how to manage them, even at U10. So for me, my youngest team that I've had has been U10. I had two sets of U10s, and one of them, goalkeeper, was very competent. Um, One strong goalkeeper and one who was a little bit weaker, but she became much more competent as our time went on working together. So I would look for a, 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 a I would look for a goalkeeper who can quickly read events taking place or unfolding in front of them and articulate that in a really concise way to the players. You don't want streams of big words and long sentences and ums and ahs. You want them to see it, remember what it might lead to, um, and communicate that clearly, quickly. Um, so, regardless of the age, I would say I've looked for a goalkeeper who can recognise events unfolding. Um, I had a U12 goalkeeper who was not able to catch, couldn't catch the ball, couldn't catch the ball, um, and then that was a massive problem because that's just the basics of ball handling. So what you need to remember is it's a specialist position. It's a specialist position. So did you see my dirty look there? I've just given her that look like, what do you mean by calling out for the ball? Um, it's such a specialist position, the goalkeeper. So if you're making all these expectations or demands, you've got to make sure that goalkeeper, that young player, is also getting specialist training, because it's too late in the game to expect them to be able to manage the ball, because that's where the training comes into it. And if they're not being trained for that position, you might expect them to recognise situations, which is about playing. Um, but when it comes to management of the ball, that needs practice. I think that needs more specialist practice. So you want your goalkeeper to be getting that expert training. So our goalkeeper at U12, that's what he needed, and that's what we were able to get for him eventually. But it's such a tough position to play, um, and it can be quite a lonely one. So this is great. there's no need for her to scream louder than the child is screaming. I don't know. Okay. So what's important is for that specialist goalkeeper training. Um, at U16, no, at U14, I had a goalkeeper who was great with his hands, caught everything, came out really quickly, put pressure on the advancing player, was confident, loud. Everyone knew when he was around. They understood that he understood the game. One issue that he had was his distribution. So you're looking for a player who can read unfolding situations. You're looking for a player who can articulate what they see. You're looking for a player who can uh, manage the ball. Ball management is very, very, very important. And then you're looking for a player who can distribute with his or her feet and the hands as well. So I think that's a lot of practice, but it's also something that they can work on their own, because distribution is it doesn't necessarily matter so much how much they move before initially. I think when you're breaking things into detail, because what I'm saying is about the basics. So basically, you want someone to be able to receive and give in an expedient way, in a quick, safe way that helps to launch the attack. And you can get the goalkeeper to practice that on their own, but it would have to start from them. If they're on their own, they would already have received the ball, or they can throw it off of a wall and catch it, and then look to distribute, or get it from there, kick it onto a wall, get it on their feet, and look to play out. But you're definitely looking for a player who can distribute it in a way that allows your team to break through the other unit, or at least get an opportunity to retain the ball. And I think that if you've got a player who's not able to do that yet, it's not a bad thing to get them to practice that on their own, literally just against the wall, or just throwing up in the air, catching it themselves, and then going from there. When it comes to adult teams, I think it's difficult with adult teams because I've only coached a few adult teams, and by that time they're kind of fully formed. So it's more of a challenge to get them to do new things, to get them to use their feet more, get them to switch play more, getting them to recognise 1v1 situations. Can they distribute it quickly? Can they recognise the benefit in the height in the team? Can they get the ball back after distributing it? Can they become the player that helps to recycle the play? Maybe the confidence would be there, but the competency, if they haven't already been given that training, may be something that's lacking. So the competency as you get older, I think, is what big challenge is with goalkeepers. Might be the same with outfield players, but from my experience, what I've seen with older players, if they haven't learned it yet, by the time they are in an open age group, it's a massive challenge for them. But throughout the ages that I've worked with, for me, there's been obviously issues, developmental issues with each age group that you're looking to try and manage and improve. But I think the issue which has caused me the greatest headache has been recognising the development of the game in front of them. I had a goalkeeper who was watching another game during our game, so that's a problem. If you can't concentrate long enough to even watch your own game and participate in it just because the ball's not being fired straight at your face, that's a major problem. So I think that bit of concentration in order to recognise what's happening and manage the people in front of you, and that would take the pressure off of your game, because you're already identifying when it can become emergency defending, and you don't have to react. you can be proactive and manage it. So that's been the biggest struggle. But with goalkeepers, I'd look for a goalkeeper who's got that concentration to recognise the unfolding events. I think that's the most important thing for a goalkeeper, regardless of their age.